Gang, what's up? Aaron, Kennedy, and Loonie. Smash the like, hit subscribe. Thanks for joining us today. What a wild time, man. These grits will stop at no. They have no stopping point for what they will do to get their majority government. Like now, Marilyn Gladu crossing the floor. That's hard to tolerate. Thank you, Rhonda, Kirk, James Fahey, my man. What's shaking? I see Justin Rempel. What's up, brother? Yeah, Christine, how are you doing? So anyways, we'll drop right into this. It's a kind of a dismal day for politics. The Canucks are represented by two separate yet unequal groups. The globalists who sold out and the opposition trying to salvage a country. These are their stories.
Why does this government treat Alberta like a fart in the room that nobody wants to talk about or acknowledge? That is where my constituents have been at with this government for over a year. As I'm giving this speech, there's Liberal members across the aisle that are laughing at me. Yeah. And they're laughing at you. Yeah.
The honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
They're not laughing at me.
Interrupt my friend in her speech, but I heard her say a word that I know is distinctly unparliamentary, and I think she may want to withdraw it. The word was F-A-R-T.
Are you serious, Mr. Speaker? Like, is my colleague actually serious? I just gave an impassioned speech about supporting Alberta jobs, and that's what the leader of a political party stands up and has to say? No, I don't withdraw it.
Decorum is important and respect is important in this place. I remind those who are now heckling me that you are breaking the rules of this place when you do so.
Indeed, in dealing with unparliamentary language, the Speaker takes into account the tone, manner, and intention of the member speaking, the person whom the words at issue were directed, and it goes on.
All of them reacting to her floor crossing. In a statement to her constituents, Gladu said that she believes it is, quote, the best thing for our community's priorities and for our country when speaking about her decision. Now, all of this,
she's a beast.
Of course, reminding you the math here, puts the Liberals at 171 seats in the House of Commons, one seat away from that majority threshold. Now, they could achieve that come Monday with those three by-elections, two of which are in ridings that have been long held by the Liberals. Then again, it's a few days away.
Common sense.
And nobody had Marilyn Gladu crossing on their bingo card, so it could happen before then. Let's talk about that with the front bench and what all of this means. Sharon Carr is a CTV News political analyst. She's the former Deputy Chief of Staff to former Finance Minister Bill Morneau. Laura D'Angelo is with Enterprise Canada. She previously worked in Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's office. Jamie Ellerton is the principal at Kanaptis, worked for Minister Jason Kenney during the Harper government. And Jeff Rutledge is the Senior Vice President at Macmillan Vantage. He was a former staffer to the Harper government. So Sharon, before all of those by-elections, there's of course the Liberal love-in Montreal. What do you think the mood's going to be like there?
Well, listen, conventions are always an exciting moment, and there's always a lot of love. And I'm assuming that this one's going to be definitely one that's full of lots of high fives and hugs going around. But in all seriousness, this is going to be the first actual convention for the Prime Minister to get his message out. I know there's a number of speakers that are going to be.
What's up, Andrew, brother? Hawk, carbon dioxide, how you doing?
Be there. But listen, the mood today.
Good to see you, Marie DeWara.
After today's floor crossing might have some people thinking in different ways as well at the convention. Today's floor crossing was a surprise for a lot of people. And I think from two perspectives, MP Gladu is going to have a lot of trust to build with a lot of her new caucus.
My girl, Mary Atwell, how you doing?
Members of the Liberal Party for a lot of things that she has said and has stood for in the past. So I think we can't look past that, and we do have to. We are a party that welcomes a lot of individuals into it, but there is a level of confusion by a lot of individuals. So I think she's going to have a lot of trust to build amongst people even there. But I will say a part of the message of why she crossed the floor, and I think what people will be talking about at a convention as well, is it says one thing a lot about Pierre Poilievre when he loses a member like MP Gladu, but also her riding is one of the most significant ridings that are impacted by manufacturing job losses, and it is widely said in Ottawa, at least today.
How does it say anything about Poilievre, though, really? Like, you have somebody that crosses the floor. What does that have to say about Poilievre? I don't know. They're taking pot shots.
Part of her decision to do so was because the importance of setting the right tone and tenor for a government to ensure that those losses are reversed or mitigated somehow. So this weekend's going to be, there's going to be a lot of feels going around.
Yeah. Jamie, I want to pick up on something that Sharon said. What does this say about Pierre Poilievre's leadership and the state of the party?
It says that he's got challenges, Mike. Like, I think if you look at this trend now, we're on month 5 of another Conservative MP crossing the floor to join Mark Carney and the Liberals. And every time they do it, they're talking about character and leadership. And of course, the inverse mean is the dig of what they're saying about the guy on the way out. I think the real challenge for Pierre Poilievre is the kind of playbook they've been running every time this happens, is to just denigrate the person and almost pretend like it hasn't changed. And he's changed his tone in recent weeks to try and officially turn the page on last year's electoral defeat, but he's clearly got issues with the Conservative caucus. And nobody, I think, in Ottawa with a straight face can say with confidence that there are not more out there that are also considering this, which just means he's going to have to be looking over his shoulder constantly. And so whether it's caucus management, having other people reach out to the team, I think they need to do a lot more work of the housekeeping within that caucus. Just playing to the base online is clearly not going to be enough. And if he really wants to turn the tide on this, he needs to make sure that the rest of the team is actually with them, because this is now a trend, and these things have a way of quickly escalating to be existential to one's leadership.
Yeah, Laura, and we heard from Chris D'Entremont sitting in that very seat you were in about he's still having conversations with people.
Yeah, I mean, the rumors around today are, I'm sure you're hearing numbers too. I've heard 8, 9, 10. That's a lot of MPs. Those are a lot of conversations. And I think, you know, Jamie hit a really important point. Pierre Poilievre can put out as many tweets as he wants trying to
Thank you, Snooki. Amazing.
make this about the people leaving. The reality is that's 4 floor crossers with rumored up to 10 more. And after the first one, you know, after Chris, when there was then the rumor that Matt Genereux was going to cross, the question was, well, but what's the number? How many does it take for the conversation to shift from these are MPs from swing ridings who, you know, Mark Carney's message is resonating with them, to this is about Pierre Poilievre's leadership. If we're at 4 and the most recent floor crosser is coming from a riding that is not a swing riding, she, you know, one is a conservative with 59%. She is very clearly a social conservative, at least has been in the past based on the way she votes. That is no longer just that Mark Carney resonates with her. There is very clearly a problem inside the House. And at some point, they're going to have to start addressing that, certainly internally, but publicly as well. The base is going to start asking questions.
Yeah, and add to that, Jeff, the fact that Katie Merrifield, the Director of Communications, also left this week. I mean, just when it seemed like Pierre Poilievre was starting to stack up, potential wins in, calling for the gas tax and appearing on podcasts and seeming more like a prime minister in waiting, and then there's these two, back-to-back blows to him. How does he recover, and how much work does he need to do to sort of turn inwards, as Laura was saying, instead of putting out statements saying, well, it's on them?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think, for all intents and purposes, what Pierre is putting out to the Canadian public right now is the right message, right? It's about affordability. It's about, a competent kind of voice around the major geopolitical issues that are going on. But the problem is he doesn't appear to have the full confidence of his caucus. And, I'll say it time and again that, it's an easier thing to do to win the leadership of your party when you've got the base secured, but it's a much harder thing to do, to balance all of the priorities of individual MPs who, have constituent issues and have individual personal perspectives on how things should be run. And so when you're trying to kind of herd all those groups together and build trust, that is where the real challenge is. And so I don't know if perhaps his attention is so split in trying to reestablish his voice on the Canadian kind of political channels versus trying to manage his caucus. But it seems to be a bit of a pull right now and is making it very challenging for him. I certainly felt like he had some win back in his sails, but today feels like a particularly strange day. And who knows, maybe tomorrow Elizabeth May will finally take the opportunity to be the change maker and wander through the wide open flaps of the Liberal tent and hand Mark Carney his majority.
and then truly make it a wide and diverse tent, Sharon. I mean, I don't think. Look, Jeff, I know this is your first time on the panel. I did not expect a hot take like that, Sharon.
Listen, the joke, I think the running joke all day amongst a lot of us has been, well, Elizabeth May is next, guys. And honestly, nothing will surprise me at this point. But listen, I think that we just came after a couple weeks where it's like, oh my God, Pierre Poilievre did Joe Rogan. Like, it was like earth shattering, and he's getting out to all the people. Then he loses his decom, and then he loses an MP that nobody thought would cross the floor. The House is not on fire. The House is like collapsing and completely burning to the ground. And if this is not a wake-up call, it's one thing to get out there and get your message to the bases that you believe are your followers and that need to hear you. But if you're not managing your caucus, and if you're not giving them a reason to stay with you, especially people from a riding, like an MP from the riding of Sarnia. Again, I think Laura said she won by close to 59%. If that's not a wake-up call for you, then you've got bigger problems.
Okay, my biggest problem is we got to keep this show on time. We're going to have to leave it there. Sharon Carr, Jamie Ellerton, Laura D'Angelo, and Jeff Rutledge, thank you all for being part of our front bench. We'll be right back after this. We have our takeaway coming up next.
You know, what the issues that they're bringing up in the House of Commons, and you know, the quiet conversations that we all have in the back alleys or the back lobbies as we talk about different issues that are being brought forward. There's still a number of unhappy people there. Whether they'll take the ultimate move and cross the floor, that's another question. But there's still some people that are upset over there.
It's time for Lefties Losing It. Let's go to the red state of Georgia and see who the lefties are hoping will be elected to the Georgia State House.
Hi, I'm Aaron Baker, and I am an openly trans Jewish lesbian running for Georgia State House.
Hi, and I'm Jeremiah Olney. I am a straight, white, atheist man running for Georgia State House.
But we're both strong progressives.
So progressive and inclusive and diverse, except they're just two white dudes. You know, I've missed my favourite crazy-eyed Swedish miscreant. She's so special. Despite her limited schooling, Greta Thunberg is an expert on the climate and geopolitics, and now she's an expert on genocide and war crimes.
Here we go.
The President of the United States just said that a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. And no one is reacting. This speaks for itself. What the is anyone even doing at this point? We have normalized genocide, total annihilation of entire people, the systematic destruction of the biosphere which we are all depending on to survive, and that corrupt, racist war criminals can act with complete impunity. But even though we have allowed far too much so far, it is not too late to say stop. If we don't, we shouldn't be able to call ourselves human.
Oh, hon, I've never called you human. I've called you a Swedish doom goblin more than once, and called you a demented clown, and I'm sure we'll come up with some new ones as the year progresses. Now to failed late-night TV host Stephen Colbert, who suddenly cares a lot about gas prices, but it wasn't always that way.
Somehow, President Businessman didn't see all this coming. Reportedly, this weekend's oil price spike caught White House staffers off guard. According to one, it was insane. But it's going to cost. Since the invasion, oil prices have skyrocketed. Today, the average gas price in America hit an all-time record high of over $4 per gallon. Okay. That stings, but a clean conscience is worth $1 or $2. I'm willing to pay $4 a gallon. Hell, I'll pay $15 a gallon because I drive a Tesla.
Isn't that funny? In 2022, it was all about a clean conscience, but Stephen Colbert doesn't seem to give a stuff about Iranians, more than 90 million Iranians living under an Islamist dictatorship, and doesn't seem to care about the women there who face being beaten, raped and even murdered by the regime for fighting for their freedom. Maybe he got rid of his Tesla.
Oh, yeah. When Casey Hickey and her husband found this 3-acre farm in Ladysmith, the mom of 2 thought her dreams had come true, to raise animals that could feed her family and offer horseback riding lessons to help pay the bills. But now, proposed changes to zoning in the Cowichan Valley Regional District that would dramatically restrict use without community consultation is threatening her family's future here.
It's scary. It's scary and it's really upsetting.
The proposed changes under the CVRD's comprehensive zoning bylaw would alter rural zoning in many areas. So her property on the outskirts of Ladysmith would not be allowed more than 6 backyard chickens.
We wouldn't be able to have enough chickens to feed my kids breakfast.
No roosters, no bees for pollination, or riding lessons or boarding of horses.
We moved here with such big dreams and such big goals, and to be told you can't do this and this and this and this, it stops everything.
Rig up, Gordy. Oh, Gord.
Cobble Hill's Kirsten Witt runs a small farm and equestrian facility that would not be allowed under the proposed zoning changes.
Back up. I just think it's really unfair, and it makes me upset because the kids can't come anymore.
So she organized a group of neighbors against the plan on Saturday, and by Sunday, it had reached 2,000 members.
There's a lot of people exactly like me that are thinking, what are we going to do? How are we going to pay our bills if we can't board a couple horses, if we can't have some chickens, if we can't sheep, goats?
They were shocked. And understandably so.
Ian Morrison is the Area F Director for the Cowichan Valley Regional District and says he is being flooded with messages from worried landowners who want to stop this plan before the changes are passed.
People don't want to see a lot of government in their affairs, and I've been standing up, I've been raising these issues with my colleagues, and nobody should be surprised that this level of outrage is happening now.
So Morrison is urging landowners to share their views and attend upcoming CVRD meetings, since there's still time to reshape the zoning changes that will affect the future of farming in the Cowichan Valley.
This whole COVID madness, this so-called pandemic, it was just a test balloon, a gigantic test balloon.
Get a load of this lady. Oh my goodness. She's a German politician, maybe on the EU.
Well, for what, you ask?
Listen.
Well, to see how far they could go, to see what exactly they would have to do to get free individuals in a free and democratic society to consent to being forced into compliance.
This is all how it went down. It was a test. There's some serious reaffirmation here for me, just because I've always thought this is exactly what they were doing. It was a test.
That's what they were trying to establish. That's what they were trying to figure out. And they have figured it out. Trust me, they are much smarter now. The goal ultimately is to transform our free and democratic societies, into totalitarian societies. Their goal is to strip each and every one of us of our fundamental rights of freedom, democracy, the rule of law. They want to get rid of all of this. This whole COVID thing had never anything to do with public health. It never had anything to do with breaking waves.
The confirmation bias that I'm experiencing right now is crazy.
It always had to do with breaking people in order to make us a part of a mindless, malleable mass, which they can totally control, and we will be completely dependent upon this globalitarian elite. So I'm really imploring the people and all the peoples around the world, for God's sake, stop giving your democratically elected governments the benefit of the doubt. They are not deserving of that. They are not. Stop rationalizing whatever your government is doing. Stop rationalizing and come up with some good intentions. They have no good intentions. Never, As I said before, in the entire history of mankind, there has never been a political elite concerned about the well-being of regular people. And it isn't any different now. Why should it? Stop giving them the benefit of the doubt. Because I can tell you, you cannot comply your way out of a tyranny. It is impossible. Trying to do so, you will only feed a gigantic alligator in the hopes of being eaten last. But guess what? Your turn will come, and then you will be the one swallowed up.
I've never heard that metaphor before.
I also have to ask the people, end your silence. Speak up. For God's sake, stop complying. Start rebelling. They're out to get you if you do not resist.
Ooh, that's quite a bit to watch, eh? Like, holy moly.
Need to provide you more details on the analysis that went into the design of the program. Happy to provide that.
But I'm not asking about the design of the program. I'm asking about, like, people don't build a playground in this country without a feasibility study. And your government's putting $1 billion into a gun confiscation regime, money that could be spent on so many different law enforcement and public safety priorities. Do you have a study that says that this policy is going to reduce violence and crime in this country?
What's up, trees? Good to see you. Realization, welcome. James Fahey, brother. Always a pleasure.
Thank you for the question. I think the minister referenced one of the most critical reports that we had received, which was the results of the Mass Casualty Commission, just the results of a really, truly tragic event, a great amount.
The Mass Casualty Commission made recommendations, but it didn't provide any academic analysis on whether or not the gun confiscation policy would reduce crime. In fact, I think there's many questions about why numerous reports that the killer in that case had illegal firearms. He did not have a firearms license, and they were reported and nothing was done about it. And I think that's a question that many Canadians still have today. But the fact is, like, you've evaded the question, does the government have a study that shows this gun confiscation will reduce crime?
We have a number of studies at public safety that show the comprehensive nature that you have to take in order to be able to reduce crime in Canada, particularly gun crime. So this is one element that the government has chosen amongst many other elements that we are investing in border enforcement to be able to deal with the illicit flow of firearms.
We have $1 billion program, nearly $1 billion program, and we have no study that says that there will be a concrete reduction in crime as an outcome.
What's up, Wesley?
Changing tack here. I see in the departmental reports, the disaster financial assistance arrangements, the funding's dropping from $1.1 billion to $156 million. That's an 86% cut in DFAA funding. We know that disasters are getting more widespread. How can this government cut that funding by 86%?
So this is a formula. So what we do is we actually provide, upon receipt of invoices from provinces and territories, we provide, according to a formula, an amount that is meant to compensate those communities that have suffered and those provinces and territories that have suffered through an event. So the funds allocated to us in any given year can fluctuate year over year. You see it in our reports at the end of the year.
That those funds could actually increase beyond the departmental report?
Certainly.
Okay, thank you. Next to the CBSA, I've recently learned that exported VINs, so legally exported vehicles, the vehicle identification numbers of exported vehicles are being used to clone, mask stolen vehicles in Canada. Now, CBSA has engaged in what I consider to be a monopolistic arrangement with a private sector company to provide them with a monopoly on exported VIN data, which is then sold through comprehensive vehicle reports to used car dealers at a cost to them. Why isn't this information being provided free of charge by the CBSA to registry agents so that our registries who are registering vehicles?
I hear you, Michael Fitz. It's making me, like, not radicalized, but like some crazy thoughts. I can understand.
Can spot stolen vehicles that are being used from exported vehicle VINs.
So our arrangement with Carfax and EQT.
No, you're good now.
Our arrangement with Carfax and EQT, which is a not-for-profit, is working. We've had good feedback. Stolen vehicles, the number of stolen vehicles is down, and the work that we're doing with them and with law enforcement is showing results. And so
this information being provided Like, I can go on the CPIC website and put a VIN in and find out if it's a stolen vehicle. But this government is giving this information specifically to a for-profit company, which is charging its customers for this data. This is data that could be highly useful in stopping the selling of illegal stolen vehicles in Canada. Why is the government not providing this information?
There are privacy aspects related to this that we have worked out with the Privacy Commissioner and these organizations. So I'm not aware of them off of this. It's a nonprofit. We are providing them with information, and they are working with law enforcement. I think it's a bit ridiculous to say that there's privacy considerations when this information is being sold to car dealerships where anyone can, after they have purchased the information, anyone can access that information. There is no confidential and privacy once this information is being sold to dealerships. Why isn't it be given to registry agents? Because at a registry, when vehicles are checked, that information is tracked. We could give this information to registries across Canada and we could identify stolen vehicles today at a much lower cost than what this government's giving. Why aren't we doing it? So 10 seconds. The arrangement right now, happy to look into that, but right now the organizations are working with law enforcement to address stolen vehicles through this arrangement, and it's working.
That's the big boss at the Canadian Border Service Agency. Come on, give me a break.
Oh, yeah. The next time a Liberal says something mean, maybe leaves you a rude comment or calls you a name, just remember one thing, guys. They don't actually mean what they say. They don't believe in anything. They don't believe in anything but their own power and control. The Liberal Party stands for no principles, no values. All they want is to be in charge. They will run this country into the ground and pat themselves on the back for it as long as they're in charge. You want an example?
Yeah, a couple examples would be great.
Let's look at the recent floor crossing of Marilyn Gladu. You know, for years, the Liberals tried to destroy the careers of Canadians who disagreed with them on gender and sexuality, on the trucker convoy, on matters of life, such as euthanasia. And yet, Marilyn Gladu, who once held all those positions, as soon as she was willing to cross the aisle and join Mark Carney, giving him more power and control, the Liberals rolled out the red carpet and had her hanging out in Carney's office in no time. Does that sound like an organization that believes in anything? No, they don't. If you are willing to support their power and control, they will be very nice to you. And if you threaten that power and control, they will be very mean to you. That's all the Liberal Party of Canada stands for. And you need to know this because Liberals in the media and Liberals in Parliament and Liberals online, they're constantly trying to attack Conservatives and independent thinkers because they don't want us to stand up for what we believe in. So they want us to think, well, maybe if we compromise and maybe if we do this and maybe if we do that, they'll be fair and gracious. No, they won't. They will not be fair and gracious. They don't want to be fair or gracious because all they want is power and control. Do not be discouraged by them. Do not be influenced by them. Keep fighting for what you believe in. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep fighting for the people of our country. Keep fighting for Canada. Don't give up. March onward. We need your help. We need your focus. And we need your strength and confidence. God bless you, and God bless Canada.
It certainly is Mark Carney's Liberal Party. It is no longer resembles anything like Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party. And I think what these floor crossings demonstrate is that it's all about him as opposed to the party itself. We haven't really heard a lot from Liberal MPs. Certainly, you know, when the floor crossings.
Okay, this piece of shit, Lydia, whoever, I don't know if I agree with a word this person has
happened. There's a lot of backslapping, a lot of cheers and support of it. But I really wonder about the grumblings in the backbench. You know, can you imagine you're a Liberal MP who's run equally as many times since 2015, and you're not getting these kinds of attentions from the Prime Minister? So he is opening himself up to some potential rifts within the party. Currently, though, people are happy with him because he's doing well in the polls. He's still sort of under a sort of a honeymoon period. People haven't really started to really push him about where are your results going to be. So he's still in the, I'm making a lot of announcements, I'm showing that I have the strong leadership, and he's able to get the floor crossers. But the question does remain, how big can that Liberal Party be? How big of a tent can it consume, given that he's got NDP floor crossers, he's got Conservative floor crossers? I mean, who knows? He might even be going after Bloc Quebec MPs as well.
What does this mean for Pierre Poilievre and his control over his Conservative caucus?
Well, it demonstrates how difficult it is to be the leader of the opposition. There is very little an opposition leader can do to entice or to keep people in the fold. He can't offer them cabinet positions. He can't offer them any kind of inducements or cushiness. And so the power really is with the Prime Minister. And so for Mr. Poilievre, he's got to sort of either hold firm and convince his remaining caucus that they do have a path to victory whenever another election happens, to tell them to stay calm. Otherwise, he does have to risk a leadership race and a challenge to his leadership. And the question then for the party is, who is better than Pierre Poilievre to fight against someone like Mark Carney, who's got all the credentials, who's got all the positive media attention, and having the power of having these floor crossings. So it's a pretty daunting challenge for whoever would be leader if it's not Pierre Poilievre.
Do you think, though, Lydia, I mean, this coming just days before an actual, 3 by-elections where it's expected that the Liberals will win 2. They now only need at least 2, maybe all 3. They only need 1 to get that majority. And so under Pierre Poilievre, it will be because 4 Conservative MPs crossed over, 1 NDP, but 4 Conservative MPs crossed over to join the Liberals. Is that not a damning indication of him and his leadership? Or is it more about Mark Carney, or is it both?
Yeah, I'm going to say this is a Mark Carney thing, and I think it's also really just a clever PR exercise. Let's face it, there's the 3 by-elections coming up. They have their convention coming up. There's also it's also a great distraction, because now there's questions about the finance minister and whether or not
maybe I take it back about calling this person an a-hole, but
he has an ethics violation with his wife being the head of Alto. So it's quite fascinating how effective the Liberals are at distracting us from the operations of government and making it all about a criticism of the opposition party. And so I think that this is a brilliant PR exercise. The question remains, can they sustain this past next week after these by-elections are done? And what else can they do to ensure that they can maintain the popularity? It's very difficult to maintain popularity over the long term. And so, that's really the big question. How long can they sustain this kind of positive news story?
Lydia, thank you.
How long is the state media going to be able to prop this guy up? He's a loser, like, in my opinion.
Lydia Miljan is a professor of political science at the University of Windsor.
Just because it's all made up anyway.
Bonjour, madame.
Radio-Canada, with respect to abortion, did Marilyn Gladu tell you she was pro-choice, and was that a condition to join the Liberals? Thank you for that question. First of all, let's be clear. The Liberal Party will always support a woman's right to choose. Always. No question about that. And I had some in-depth discussions with Ms. Gladu, and she will vote with the government on questions such as abortion or
the world is a jail, no doubt. Christine, how you doing?
Or gender equality, or the right of people to love whom they wish to love.
Sure. To be clear, the Liberal Party always will support the rights of women to choose. Always, without question. And I had discussions, and colleagues had discussions with.
What's up, Nelson? Can you believe this trash?
Madame, Miss Gladue, about those issues. She will vote with the government if there are votes relating to any aspect of that issue, as well as the rights of Canadians to be their whole selves, to love who they love, and to fully enjoy their rights under the Charters and Rights and Freedoms.
Do you not feel uncomfortable in the sense that Ms. Gladue took part in an anti-abortion demonstration recently? Well, she is aware of the government's policy in that area and the values of the Liberal Party. It's clear. I had conversations with her about our policies, and our policy is to defend women's rights, the rights of all Canadians, but since your question relates to women's rights, and particularly the right to abortion, that has been part of Liberal policy for many years. And
why isn't Steve McKinnon's hair blowing? Check out the lady beside him. Check out Steve McKinnon's a Vulcan. He's got some kind of weird power.
No, I don't feel unease because there is a pledge that has been made to support that particular policy. Thank you.
Hello, Prime Minister. Mackenzie Gray with Global News. Outside of abortion, Ms. Gladue is also pro-convoy. She supported the truckers, something you are very publicly against. She's a vaccine skeptic. She promoted the idea of using hydrochloroquine instead of vaccines. She was also so against legalized marijuana, she stood up and read a poem in the House of Commons. So I'm wondering if Ms. Gladue's views represent the views of the Liberal Party under your leadership.
Well, thank you for your question.
Who cares?
We've ran on a clear platform, clear values, defending the Charters of Rights and Freedoms, defending the right of women to choose, defending same-sex marriage, anti-conversion therapy, to save you asking that question. These are serious points. And people who are joining the Liberal Party at this critical time and supporting us, when I say people, I mean MPs, recognize those clear policy positions, those values. That's where we will go. That's what we will support. That's what we.
Good to see you, Betty Zoom. What's up, Niagara?
Will advance. What the MPs who have joined the Liberal Party have brought is a series of perspectives and expertise that is aiding the country, the government, and the country at a crucial time. So since your question is about Ms. Gladue, she has more than 2 decades of business experience. She's an engineer. She's an experienced parliamentarian. She is someone who works well with other people, including across the aisle. A number of my colleagues have deep relations with her, despite.
Oh, Mark Carney has deep relations, Matt Doherty, with Marilyn Gladue. Come in. Like, it's okay.
Having been up until yesterday in different parties. And, it's a big country, and it's a diverse country. And at a critical time for the country, to have Chris d'Entremont, une Acadienne de Nouvelle-Écosse,
an Acadian from Nova Scotia.
It means fat asshole in English.
As a member of the Liberal caucus.
To have Matt Genereux from Alberta as a member, to have an engineer from Sarnia as a member, to have Laurie Idlow from Nunavut as a member of our caucus. They all bring perspectives from their regions, from their backgrounds, from their histories, but they all are subscribing to the values of the party and the core element of our mission, which is to build Canada strong, and to build Canada strong for all Canadians.
Peck, is it as bad down there? Because I've heard that things in Australia are pretty bad too. Like, it's such a mess up here. And a lot of people, like this audience is aware, but there's so many people that aren't. They're duping everybody. Is this happening, Peck, down there?
Saying it's a big country, I imagine you think the Liberal Party is now a big tent, but it's quite a wide tent from where many of your colleagues have been and in past elections advocated for.
There's no change in values on the part of the Liberal Party. Let's be clear on that point. The values of my colleagues are my values. They're the same values.
These are Muslim values.
And people who become members of the Liberal Party of Canada have to be attached to liberal values. Yes, it's a big country. It's a big country and a diverse country, and we must represent the entire country at this pivotal moment.
Any values that other MPs that you may be courting across the floor, if they hold, that would be disqualifiers from joining the
There are values that are held by the Liberal Party.
Of solidarity, of inclusivity, of sustainability, of the rights of women, of
it's all bullshit. Like the bigger the lie, the more closely you get to what their actual plan is. Like they fake
all the rights in the Charter of Freedom. We have
this virtue signaling really gets on my nerves. Like you're a coward and a con man that goes around saying what are supposed to be the right things from about 10 years ago.
Those core values, those values don't change.
About your values. But
others come to support the mission of the party and the government at this crucial time. And we are fortunate that they take those decisions because they bring expertise, they bring perspectives, they bring energy, and they will help us work together. And we add one other thing, and then we'll go to a prochaine question. You know, I'm very appreciative of the mayor of Contrecoeur being here and Minister Boulay being here. And very
that mixed French bullshit. It's so shit yak law. Like, oh, yep.
Appreciative of our ability to work with the government of Quebec, work with the municipality to make sure that this project is not delayed another week longer, let alone 5 years.
Well, let's make it 50 years.
Another electoral cycle, another decade. It's that form of working together with people which is moving this country forward. And I think what you're seeing in
he hasn't done a damn thing, traveled around the world 6.5 times, burnt up a lot of our tax-paying dollars to accomplish nothing, signing MOUs to have them broken as soon as he lands back on our continent. Like, Mark Carney is a...
Parliament is representative of that.
Next question, prochaine question.
Oui, bonjour Olivier de TVA. Juste pour clarifier sur la question de mon collègue.
Just to go back to my colleague's question, are all elected MPs welcome in the Liberal Party, whatever their values or their previous positions? I'd like to repeat. Thank you for your question, but let me repeat. The values of the Liberal Party remain in place. The values of the Liberal Party have not changed. Solidarity, inclusivity, sustainability, and the critical values set out in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It's up to other members of Parliament to determine whether they can support Liberal values and contribute to the Liberal caucus in order to build a Quebec strong, a Canada strong for everyone. That is the government's core mission. And just one thing to add. And the fact is that there are members of Parliament who are saying, yes, I want to support the government's efforts at this important time for this country, and we're seeing.
He doesn't care. Like, he speaks French probably 70% of the time, but it's only 20% of the population. That's what kind of a prick Mark Carney is. And then he says it's for inclusivity.
Across the country in a number of different sectors, but in Parliament it's the same phenomenon.
La ligne? No. Ça, c'est l'envers.
No.
C'est l'envers.
No, it's the reverse. It's the reverse, as a matter of fact.
Non, puis parce que c'est la ligne, c'est
Because
les valeurs du Parti libéral.
the line is liberal policies, liberal values. And people have to make the choice, yes or no, to support the liberal values and the liberals' goals.
Et soutenir, il doit soutenir.
And they must support.
Let me ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, will there always be a Canada?
There will always be a Canada.
All right, elbows up.
Elbows up.
Look inside yourself, Rosemary.
It's time for a change in this country, my friends, a real change.
Canada's broken, and Canada's broken because we're stupid, okay? Canada's broken because we're stupid.
As a European, I am a European, actually.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
oh.
I'm an Irish citizen. Yeah, so
Well,
there you
welcome,
go.
welcome.
Speaking as a European, I like to say following.
And as the most European of the non-European countries, Canada looks first to the European Union to build a better world. And we really have two choices as a jurisdiction, as a country in this circumstance. We can nostalgically look back and long for the old order to somehow return, or we can build a new one with purpose and partnership. And so
he thinks he's so goddamn smart. Like, to anybody that's paying attention, you know what he is, right? Like, he is a disaster. He's a psychopath.
So today, this is a new era of cooperation. Our strategic Canada-EU or EU-Canada strategic partnership for the future will build a new and deeper relationship that brings us closer together, from defense to digital, from supply chains to security. We're launching comprehensive negotiations across multiple areas of cooperation and connection, trade, security, digital, climate. So we're meeting now in that context in, as you just said, in hard times.
Oh, yeah.
We might say even a hinge moment of history, a world that's more dangerous and divided, a time where the rules-based international, the global order, rules-based global order is under threat, in a time when technological change.
It's under threat by an asshole like you and your group of elite friends. Oh my God.
Is accelerating.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
More than just elbows. For those values are Canadian values. Those are the values that I kept close to me when I was managing crises in Canada and around the world. Yeah, and they were values that I remembered when I was building strong economies. And they're values that I'm drawing on to stand up to Donald Trump and help build the strongest economy in the G7.
Elbows up.
Elbows up.
Let me finish by pointing out one other thing. Who's the worst person to stand up to Donald Trump?
Who?
It's Pierre
Oh.
He worships the man.
Really?
Happy birthday. A few days short.
A little bit.
A few days short, but didn't have a chance to see you on the day. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm on the edge of my seat, actually. But thank you for your hospitality and above all for your.
He'll suck some of that Donald Trump day, but like won't stand up for Canadians. Like, oh, he's a traitor.
Leadership. You're a transformational president. Focus on the economy with a relentless focus on the. He worships the man. American worker, securing your borders, ending the scourge of fentanyl and other opioids, and securing the world. And
Mr. Carney, Stephanie Levitz with the Globe and Mail. We understand that you have now placed your assets in a blind trust, so you
Yes.
don't know what's happening to them going forward, but you knew what they were going into that blind trust. So what are they?
Look, Stephanie, I follow the rules of the Ethics Commissioner. I'm following them well in advance of any of the requirements, as you know, because I know you know this. You know that.
Shut up, Stephanie.
These requirements come into effect in months. We're talking days after I became Prime Minister. So I'm complying with the rules of the Ethics Commissioner, going through the processes and all these things that are necessary. And I will remind you, and I'll remind Canadians again, that the Leader of the Opposition cannot find it. And look, you look at the questions this evening, you look at the nature of the discussions, you look at the nature of discussions I had with the President of France,
Look at what
the
you
Prime
did.
Minister of the United Kingdom. The Leader of the Opposition would not be capable of having those discussions because the Leader of Opposition refuses to get his security clearance, something that it took me.
He was just learning to lie back then. He was just at a lower point on the totem pole of learning.
A few weeks to get. And he has been the Leader of the Opposition for 3 years. So I comply with my responsibilities. I comply
with Canadians not being aware of what potential conflicts of interest you
what
sought
possible
to avoid.
conflict would you have, Stephanie? Stephanie, I'm complying
Pick any of the 500 that you have.
with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance. Point final.
Are you saying you are not open to any conflict of interest?
Yes.
Someone who spent most of his life in the private sector, there's no possible conflict of interest in your assets. That's very difficult to believe.
Look inside yourself, Rosemary. I mean, you start from a prior of conflict and ill will. I have served in the private sector. I have stood up for Canada.
Reticent to
Because
talk
I'm
about
a good
that.
because I'm a good negotiator. I have negotiated a number of situations in the past. I know how to manage crises.
These are Muslim values.
Oh, yeah.
These are Canadian values. Canada intends to recognize the state of Palestine at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September 2025.
Canada's broken, and
Just in case we ever need to get hooked up by Palestine.
Canada's broken because we're stupid. Okay? Canada's broken because we're stupid.
Fact, 6 million Canadians can't get access to a family doctor. Fact, it takes 30 weeks for the average Canadian to see a specialist. Fact, while you can't get health care, Liberals force you to pay higher taxes to fund deluxe supplementary health care benefits for asylum claimants who've been rejected, who are non-Canadians, non-permanent residents, and have never paid taxes in this country. Fact, the reality is that these services include many things that are not covered by your public plan, things like physiotherapy. Fact, the cost of providing these deluxe supplementary benefits to asylum claimants has gone up by 1,000% under the Liberals to over $1 billion. Money diverted away from our health care, jamming up our system and increasing our wait lines. The Liberals destroyed our immigration system with numbers that overwhelmed our jobs, our health care, and our housing. Not only that, they've made it so that when someone is here making an asylum claim and they commit a crime, they could indeed have lower sentences than if a Canadian had committed the very same crime. This is unfair, and it's time that it changed.
What's up, Nancy Megan? It's good to see you.
That's why tomorrow, Conservatives are moving a motion.
True Blue Brother?
To change it. The motion would force a review and a cutback in benefits to asylum claimants to ensure that non-citizens and non-permanent residents do not get superior health benefits than Canadians. Second, it would ensure that those asylum claimants who are here and have been rejected only get life-saving emergency care and not special care. And third, it would ensure that judges give the full sentence and allow for a complete deportation of foreign nationals who are non-citizens that commit crime in our country. Enough is enough. We can't allow foreign criminals to take advantage of our system, false refugee claims to overwhelm the services that you pay for. We need a system that allows you, as a hardworking Canadian, to benefit from all that you've contributed to Canada. Quick and high-quality health care, good jobs and housing, safe streets. That's the Canadian promise. We're going to restore fairness. Sign our petition, back our motion, tune in tomorrow for the debate. Let's ensure that all Canadians get fair treatment.
When you mention the high number of people out on bail and the issues that we've been seeing perennially, not just on this committee's work, but in the news for many years of revolving door bail, what is the effect this has on the resourcing of police departments?
Well, it has a dramatic effect on the resourcing of police departments. You know, we have in the province of Ontario what we call a bail compliance dashboard, which are offenders that are repeat violent offenders out on firearm-related offenses. We have over 2,000 offenders registered on that database, for which we have checked more than 14,000 times. So it is very resource intensive, but there's not a lot more important than ensuring repeat violent offenders are abiding by their conditions.
And is it a better use of police resources to monitor those conditions, to monitor people who are illegally using firearms? Is it a better use of resources to do that than to be involved in collecting firearms from licensed, law-abiding firearms owners?
We would absolutely prioritize the enforcement of repeat violent offenders.
In your capacity as with the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, but you're also the Commissioner of the Ontario Provincial Police, which has declined to participate in the Liberal government's firearms confiscation scheme. There are a number of police chiefs of Ontario municipal forces that have also spoken up and said they do not believe this is a legitimate use of their resources, given these issues with bail that are taxing and stretching them. How pervasive is that sense within the police chiefs that you represent?
Many police services, almost every police service across this country, is tasked with the demands that are put before them. Unprecedented amounts of civil unrest in our major urban centers, increasing crime in rural areas, repeat violent offenders that need to be monitored, crime guns that are coming in from the U.S. in unprecedented amounts. We will exceed over 2,000 crime guns this year again. 91% of them are coming in from the U.S. These are the dangers, these are the strains and drains on our resources, and this is where we need to be spending our time and our attention.
And just to confirm, you're saying that these are not guns that are lawfully owned and purchased through the legal means in Canada that are causing the gun crime problems that you're forced and your officers are forced to deal with?
It is very rare that a lawfully possessed firearm in our country gets categorized as a crime gun and is used in a violent act. Our issue, our concern as Canadians should be on those crime guns that are primarily coming from the U.S. They are illegal from the day they arrive, and we need to focus our attention.
All right, gang, that's a little bit boring. So we're going to flip over to something I'd like to try. It's more something that I'm just trying to get better at, whatever. But this is it. We're going to go and...
Talking to Marilyn for a long time. I've known her for a long time. I think she's a builder. I think she's pragmatic. She liked the agenda. And we welcome MPs. We're all talking to lots of MPs, which is great. This is a kind of pragmatic moment. And so we're interested in working with lots of different people. And so my conversations with Marilyn were really pragmatic and really great. Look,
sure.
I've been talking to Marilyn.
The next
Okay, I know we just showed this, but I thought it was really
time
interesting.
a liberal says something mean, maybe leaves you a rude comment or calls you a name, just remember one thing, guys. They don't actually mean what they say. They don't believe in anything. They don't believe in anything but their own power and control. The Liberal Party stands for no principles, no values. All they want is to be in charge. They will run this country into the ground and pat themselves on the back for it as long as they're in charge.
Sure.
You want an example? Let's look at the recent floor crossing of Marilyn Gladu. You know, for years, the Liberals tried to destroy the careers of Canadians who disagreed with them on gender and sexuality, on the trucker convoy, on matters of life, such as euthanasia. And yet, Marilyn Gladu, who once held all those positions, as soon as she was willing to cross the aisle and join Mark Carney, giving him more power and control, the Liberals rolled out the red carpet and had her hanging out in Carney's office in no.
Yeah, all of a sudden, it's not a problem for any of these conservative ideas. Like, come on.
Does that sound like an organization that believes in anything? No, they don't.
They don't. Anyways, on to the next.
Grace with Rebel News. There was a tweet put out by your shadow minister for immigration on Iran and asylum seekers, and I just wanted clarification if you believe that the Iranian people are net abusers of the asylum system, or if you were being more specific to people associated with the regime in Iran, the IRGC. Could you just clarify?
No, the people of Iran are not the problem. We welcome Persian people to our country. We've been very blessed to have a very large Persian population come here. Almost all of them are fleeing from this dictatorial and repressive regime, and we're made stronger by that.
Is so fantastic. Why do Muslims always flee to Christian countries? Why not go to Saudi or another Muslim country?
Well, because Saudi Arabia actively prevents their Muslim neighbors from going there, and the UK government or the US.
But why does Saudi prevent migrants going there?
Look, I'm not an ambassador for the Saudi government.
Isn't it because Christian lands are free and tolerant and open? And isn't that the very thing that Muslims try and change when they arrive in our country? Why not go to Saudi? Why not go to another country where
because when you
the
have
Muslim
a kid,
faith is practiced? Tell me.
When you have a kid on your hands, you try to find any refuge. Literally, you would go across the Mediterranean even if you don't know how to swim. You would do anything possible for your 2-year-old.
We don't see any women and children on the boats across the Med. With Islam.
Where does it stop? Like, did you have a problem when the school system is asking if our kids have got their polio vaccination?
Well, I think, in terms of the risk.
When the school system is asking if our kids have got their polio vaccination?
Well, I think, in terms of the risk, people that got polio, many of them died and many of them were crippled. And that is not the same frequency of risk that we see with COVID-19.
Polio and DDT, check that out.
Fixed everything as soon as possible.
Sukhwinder Kandola is the owner of the Esso gas station near Crosslands Road north of Barrie. Now shuttered. Last week, his station front and center of controversy after water was detected in his fuel. Tonight, he is combating hatred and sharing his story after he says he unknowingly sold the contaminated.
Do you think he added water to the gas?
Fuel.
On March 23rd evening, a couple of customers came into our gas station and then they complained about that something is wrong with the gas, and they said they're having problem with their cars, and then so we told them that we will figure out.
The gas station immediately stopped selling regular fuel, and he made contact with 18 people impacted by the contaminated gas.
We are depending on these people, so we don't want to lose our customers. So we didn't did this on purpose or anything like that.
He says he understands how devastating the issue has been, and now the tone has changed from looking for answers and helping those impacted to rebuking blatant racism and hate online.
They are going on show.
Should you do that? Should Mark Carney be able to secure a majority, not through the will of the people, not through a mandate from the people? Should he be able to do that by people taking advantage of a loophole in our parliamentary system? A loophole I'll bring up that Marilyn Gladue started a petition in January to force a by-election for people who cross the floor. So is she going to voluntarily resign and run as a Liberal in a by-election? Because that's what she said she would have done 2 months ago. Is she going to do that again?
Well, there isn't a by-election. You think there should be?
You know what? I think there should be. I think if you cross the floor, there should be a by-election. Marilyn Gladue 2 months ago said there should be. So will she say that again? I doubt it.
And if your data is correct, which I'm not doubting, that 80% of people who vote in a federal election are actually voting for a leader, how do you think the people of Sarnia and Lambton would vote if they were put to a vote?
Yeah, and honestly, it's actually higher than that. And then this is, into the theory of political science of what determines somebody's vote. I would imagine that people would vote overwhelmingly for the Conservative Party. It is a very conservative riding. It is historically a conservative riding. It's provincially a conservative riding. The people who live in Sarnia Lambton tend to vote Conservative. I think they will be very upset that Marilyn Gladue has abandoned her value system and that she basically is telling them that their vote didn't matter. She is now a Liberal, sitting as a Liberal, voting as a Liberal. And, I have a lot of Liberal friends who today are wondering, are we now a pro-choice, a pro-life party? Do we have to have room for all of these different positions in our party that yesterday we didn't?
20 years it's been.
Who cares?
Floor crossing for us even further. CBC News chief political correspondent Rosemary Barton joins us now. So, Rosie, this Liberal tent seems to be getting bigger. Could that create problems for the Prime Minister?
Yeah, I mean, as you heard from Ashley there, some of the views Gladue has previously expressed don't necessarily line up with what would be traditional Liberal values, I would suggest, Adrian. So the Liberal Party has shifted under the Prime Minister, that's for sure. Mark Carney is pulling support from the left. He brought in an NDP MP. He is trying to bring in the former deputy leader of the Ontario NDP, who's running as a Liberal in the by-election on Monday. And now from the right, 4 Conservatives, including Gladue, who certainly holds the most socially conservative viewpoints of any of them. So yeah, this might cause the Prime Minister some problems as he tries to manage a caucus with all of these really divergent views. But when you're in government, when you are potentially days away from a majority government, the grumbling from inside or outside caucus might not be quite as intense.
To break down this floor.
Oink, oink. Oink, 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 oink. I'm the best piggy. Oink, 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 oink. Best piggy in the town. Oink, 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 pig.
1 second, because this is going to get really good really fast. For those who don't know, for the first time in history, Mark Carney has formed a majority government through Florida.
I love this guy. He does great videos. He's mostly on X. I think somebody has a shadow account on YouTube, but this is where you catch our man.
Crossing. And no, this is not normal, but check this out. You see, just a few months ago, the latest floor crosser, Marilyn Gladue, she backed a call for automatic by-elections for members of parliament who switch parties. She just did this today. And these are her words, not mine. She said, really, the whole point of being MP is to represent your constituents. So if they're voting you in under one platform, for you to switch, for whatever reasons, just seems to me to not be representing what you're supposed to be there to represent. We elected you under this banner. And if you don't want to be under that banner, then we deserve a chance to have a redo. Marilyn, I agree with you. Because this is the banner that you campaigned under. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4. 4 times for 10 years, you were elected as a conservative. And you won it by a wide margin. You had over 40,000 votes. The Liberal that you were going against, they had only 28,000. This was an easy and decisive victory 4 times in a row. My friends, this is probably one of the biggest forms of hypocrisy I think I've ever witnessed in my entire life. How is it possible that someone can agree that a by-election should be called only for them to switch parties a few months later? This does not make sense. This has never happened in Canadian history, where a prime minister has formed a majority government through floor crossings. Marilyn, what I want to know is, what were you offered?
So just in case any of you guys are over there on X checking it out, Mario Zalea, that's his channel, and definitely check him out. He's got great videos all the time.
Address the uncertainty that has arrived due to the unjustified American tariffs. We need a global leader with a plan to make a more resilient Canada, a stronger Canada, a more self-reliant Canada for this critical moment. And that man is our Prime Minister, Mark Carney. He's invited me to bring my experience, my talents, and my views into the large Liberal tent. And I think that will have a better effect inside than it will outside. And so I am happy to start working with my Liberal colleagues and the Prime Minister to build Canada strong. MP Marilyn Gladue here. A lot of people have been asking me, what do you think about Mark Carney?
No.
Emergency Measures Act has been ruled unlawful by the courts twice.
Check out the date. Like, the date is March 25th, 2026, and she was wound up.
The Liberals violated the charter rights of Canadians by freezing their bank accounts when the threat of a national security threshold was never met. They've wasted millions of dollars of taxpayer money, and now they are appealing this court decision for a 3rd time. With an affordability crisis and a jobs crisis, will the Liberals quit wasting taxpayer monies on something that the courts have ruled twice is unlawful?
She's a beast.
Speaker, the emergency
asked if he agrees with the 2021 House of Commons vote that China.
Also, check out Mark Nixon. He makes great videos. He's on X. He's on YouTube. Great videos.
Persecution of Uyghurs is a genocide. The Prime Minister today said that there are fundamental issues in terms of China's treatment of the Uyghurs in the past. And what's your take on that?
Wow. So he couldn't even agree with the motion that the Liberals adopted. Wow. So it looks like the Davos speech was all a big illusion. Remember, he said he was going to put his values ahead of superpowers and authoritarian regimes. Well, now he is showing that he will not put his values forward. Rather, he will pander to a foreign hostile dictatorship on issues of slavery and genocide. If Mr. Carney does not have the courage to stand up against slavery and genocide, what does he have the courage to do?
Carney's got no balls.
Took another big pay raise and the numbers are out.
Check this out again. Franco Terrazzano does great videos. He's with Juno News, I think, most of the time.
This year's raise ranged from an extra $7,900
Listen to this money. Like, how much more money do they need?
To an extra $15,000. MPs just took another big pay raise and the numbers are out. This year's raise ranged from an extra $7,900 to an extra $15,800. The numbers are out. Let me read them to you, folks. They're gross. A backbench MP, their salary is now $217,700, about 3 times more than the average Canadian worker's salary. A minister's salary now $321,300. The prime minister's salary $435,400. The numbers are out. Another big pay raise, folks. This is their 14th year in a row taking an annual pay raise. Now, what other job do you get a pay raise every year for 14 years, regardless of your performance? Speaking of which, Canadians are supposed to be the boss. Canadians overwhelmingly said no to another pay raise for MPs. 80% of Canadians oppose the MP pay raise. The politicians, they didn't listen to you. They took another helping of your cash anyways. Speaking of 14 annual pay raises in a row, no national politician.
I misspoke there. I said he's with Juno News. He's with Taxpayers Canadian. It's a great channel. They do a bunch of great videos. I get them all mixed up. They're right up there with
politicians in other G7 countries. None of them are doing that, right? In all the other G7 countries, the national politicians, apples to apples, either took cuts or freezes during those years. So, folks, the numbers are out. Another massive pay raise from MPs, right, ranging from $7,900 to an extra $15,800. The base salary now is over $217,000. 14th annual consecutive pay raise in a row. Absolutely.
Again, that's pretty great
of
money.
The Emergencies Act during the 2022 Freedom Convoy protests unlawful. Ottawa filed an appeal application with the Supreme Court of Canada asking the top court to overturn 2 decisive losses and restore its sweeping powers in future crisis. To understand the stakes, let's go back to the history of this rarely used law. The Emergencies Act was passed in 1988, specifically to replace the Old War Measures Act, the controversial legislation from 1914 that had been repeatedly abused, most notoriously during the 1970 October crisis, when then Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau invoked it to suspend civil liberties across the country. The new Emergencies Act was deliberately written with tighter limits. It's subject to the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, requires parliamentary approval, and is meant to be used only for true national emergencies. Until 2022, it had never been invoked. That changed on February 14th, 2022. For weeks, hundreds of truckers and their supporters had blockaded downtown Ottawa and key border crossings protesting COVID-19 vaccine mandates. The former Trudeau government declared a public order emergency, the first and only time the act had ever been used. It handed police extraordinary powers. They could ban public assemblies, designate secure zones.
Look at the face pamper on Bill Blair. Come on. It was such a ridiculous time, but they pulled so many things off.
And most controversially, ordered banks and insurers to freeze personal and corporate accounts without a court warrant. In total, between February 15th and the 23rd, the RCMP shared names of 57 individuals and entities with financial institutions, resulting in the temporary freezing of 257 bank accounts. Businesses were effectively deputized as agents of the state. The courts have been harsh. The federal court ruled the invocation unreasonable. Then, on January 16th of this year, the Federal Court of Appeal unanimously upheld that decision, stating bluntly, as disruptive and disturbing as the blockades and the convoy protests were, they fell short of a threat to national security. But the government is still fighting on. In its appeal filing, Ottawa argues the lower courts applied the wrong test and that the rulings hamstring the government's ability to respond effectively.
It's pretty embarrassing, right? Like, whoops. What are we doing? Whoops. All right, gang. I'm going to stick a fork in that. This video we're wrapping up. My name's Aaron. This is Canadian Loonie. Thank you all for tuning in. People that are new to the channel, jump in the chat, say hello. We've got an amazing chat room. It's great to see everybody. I hope I got a chance to say hello one way or the other to everyone in the room. Got a crazy great team of supporters that, well, I've got Kirk and Rhonda and they help me out so much. Can't really express. Anyhow, guys, we're going to wrap it up. That's Canadian federal politics for the day. Maybe we'll put out another video this evening. It's kind of fun. Let me know, like in the comments, if you think those rolling shows are fun. I enjoy them. If you have any tips for what we could do to make them better, I'm open to like some tips for sure. Anyhow, that's it. We're going to wrap up. Thank you all for tuning in. That's it. Canadian federal politics, another floor crosser. Like, I don't know where it goes. Like, once the Liberals have a majority for another 3 years, what are they? They're not up to anything good. I assure you, if you're a Liberal voter and you're like, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about, I assure you I do. They're steering us all in a very negative direction. Thank you to my audience. They seem very informed. It's a rough road ahead. All right, gang. Back tomorrow for another show. Happy Friday. We're getting there. Spring is in the air today in Nova Scotia. Thank goodness. It's been a while. Anyhow, wrapping it up. We're out.